Jessica leaned closer to her friend, her manicured fingers tracing the rim of her cocktail glass. The dim lighting of the upscale lounge cast a golden glow on her flawless complexion, her lips curving into a knowing smirk. "He's just my safety net," she giggled, swirling the ice in her drink. "I mean, I like the attention, but I could do better." Her friend, a brunette with a sharp bob and an equally sharp tongue, arched a brow. "Logan, you're keeping him around just in case?" Jessica shrugged. "Of course, every girl needs a fallback guy. And Logan? He's safe, reliable, boring. He adores me, which is nice, but—" she exhaled dramatically. "Let's be real, I wouldn't settle for him if I had better options. And trust me, I have plenty." The two women clinked their glasses, laughter bubbling between them. Jessica had no idea that just 5 feet away, partially obscured by a pillar, Logan Carter stood motionless, his expression unreadable. A lesser man might have stormed over, demanded an explanation, caused a scene. But Logan wasn't a lesser man. He simply pulled his phone from his pocket and hit stop recording. The moment replayed in his head as he walked out of the lounge, hands in his pockets, shoulders squared. The sound of her voice, mocking, dismissive, reverberated in his mind. Every word, every cruel little laugh was etched into his memory, but more importantly, it was stored as a crystal-clear audio file on his phone. She had played her game well. For months, Jessica had smiled at him sweetly, let him pay for expensive dinners, texted him good morning and good night like he was the only man in the world. She had woven a carefully crafted illusion, one where he was cherished, wanted, respected. But illusions crumble under the weight of truth. Logan had never been impulsive. He was calculated, methodical, a man who preferred actions over words. And tonight Jessica had given him all the ammunition he needed to end her game in a way she would never see coming. By the time he reached his apartment, a plan was already forming. He wasn't interested in confrontation. He didn't need an argument, an apology, or an excuse. What he wanted was simple: for Jessica to face the consequences of her manipulation. And that meant exposure. He sat at his desk, transferring the audio file to his laptop. Then he got to work. First, he combed through months of texts, screenshots, and social media interactions. She wasn't subtle. Flirty messages to other men, casual talks about keeping her options open, even a few incriminating photos sent to guys whose names Logan barely recognized. Next, he crafted the perfect message. PSA: if you're talking to this woman, just know you're not the only one. Don't say I didn't warn you. A few clicks later, the post was live. Now, all he had to do was wait. Logan didn't sleep that night. He wasn't anxious, far from it. He simply wanted to be awake to watch it unfold. He refreshed the post every few minutes, watching as the reactions started trickling in. First, a handful of likes. Then, the comments began. At first, people were skeptical. "This some bitter ex nonsense," one guy wrote. Logan didn't respond. He didn't have to. It didn't take long before others chimed in. "Wait. Jessica Monroe? Bro, I've been talking to her for months. Saying here, she told me she wasn't seeing anyone. Wait. Hold up, I just took her to dinner last week." Logan smirked. Just as he had suspected, Jessica's web of deception stretched far and wide. The screenshots he had included left no room for doubt. Her own words, her own flirty messages, her own photos, used against her with chilling precision. A few men even posted their own proof, exposing just how many guys she had been stringing along. Logan leaned back in his chair, watching as her perfect image cracked in real time. He imagined her waking up to the first buzz of her phone, groggily reaching for it, expecting a good morning text from one of her many admirers. Instead, she would be met with chaos. Somewhere across the city, Jessica Monroe's world was crumbling. By the time the sun was fully up, the post had gone viral within their social circle. The local dating scene was ablaze with discussion. Women were chiming in too, some defending Jessica, others sharing their own stories of manipulation and deceit. Logan stayed silent. He had no interest in arguing, explaining, or justifying. The truth was out, and that was all that mattered. Then, around 10 a.m., Jessica called. Logan watched his phone vibrate on the desk, her name flashing across the screen. He didn't answer. She called again. And again. By the fourth attempt, she left a voicemail. "Logan, what the hell did you do?" Her voice was shaking, no longer confident, no longer smug. "You need to take that down, now. You're ruining my life." Ruining her life? No. He was simply ensuring that she couldn't ruin anyone else's. An hour later, she tried texting. "Jessica." Logan, we need to talk. This is a huge misunderstanding. Please, just call me. Jessica, people are saying awful things about me. I don't deserve this. Please, Logan. Jessica, okay, I get it. You're mad. But this is too far. You're not like this. You're better than this. Logan chuckled at that last message. If she thought she could guilt him into erasing the truth, she clearly hadn't learned a thing. By noon, Jessica was in full-blown panic mode. The messages had stopped being apologetic. Now they were desperate. Jessica, everyone is ghosting me. You have no idea what you've done. Jessica, you want me to beg? Fine. Please, Logan, just take it down. Please. I'll do anything. Logan let the message sit there, unread. Seen no reply. As far as he was concerned, justice had already been served. By early afternoon, Jessica's world had spiraled into chaos. Logan knew she thrived on attention, validation, and the admiration of men who believed her to be something she wasn't. Now, for the first time, she was experiencing a reality where none of those things were within her reach. Her phone must have felt like a ticking bomb, every notification a new wave of destruction. She had always been the type to wake up to a flood of good morning texts, playful compliments, and invitations for dinner dates. But now? Silence. The same men who had once showered her with affection had disappeared. Conversations had been left unread. Texts she sent to her usual prospects went unanswered. Calls were declined. Desperation seeped into her messages. Jessica, Logan, you don't understand. People are blocking me. Just take it down, please. Jessica, you're ruining my reputation. I was just joking that night. You're blowing this way out of proportion. Logan read each one but never responded. She had underestimated him. She had assumed he was weak, that he was just another pawn in her little game. What she never considered was that Logan had been paying attention the entire time. He wasn't a fool. He had simply been patient, waiting to see whether Jessica was who she pretended to be or who she truly was beneath the surface. Now she was exposed. He imagined her pacing in her apartment, frantically scrolling through her phone, refreshing her inbox in hopes that someone, anyone, would still be interested. She had built her dating life like a house of cards, delicately balancing each man, each lie, each fabricated version of herself. But when Logan pulled out just one piece, the entire structure collapsed. By late afternoon, the whispers turned into something worse. Women who had once envied her were now talking about her behind her back. The very social circles where she had once been queen were turning against her. Logan noticed a few familiar names commenting on the post. Wow, never thought she was like that. She played my cousin the same way. Glad someone finally said it. So she's been two-timing everyone? Damn. The damage was irreparable. Jessica tried to do damage control. She posted a vague, passive-aggressive story on her social media. Something about toxic people spreading lies and how some men just can't handle rejection. But it didn't work. The receipts were too clear, the evidence too damning. No one believed her. As the hours passed, Logan finally received one last message from her. Jessica, you win. That was it, 2 words. No excuses, no more bargaining, just an admission of defeat. Logan stared at the screen for a moment, then locked his phone. He had nothing left to say. The truth had done all the work for him. For the first time in a long while, he felt at peace. Jessica had always believed she could control the narrative. She knew how to twist a situation in her favor, how to play the victim when necessary, and how to shift blame onto others with well-practiced ease. But this time, no amount of manipulation could undo the damage. The moment Logan's post went live, it stopped being a simple breakup. It became a public reckoning. By the time evening rolled around, Jessica had lost more than just the admiration of the men she had juggled. Her name had become synonymous with deception. The city's dating scene, once her playground, was now her battleground. And she was losing on every front. She tried reaching out to her usual roster of admirers, but the results were the same. Calls were ignored, messages were left unanswered. Some men, the ones who felt particularly betrayed, didn't even bother with silence. Don't ever text me again. You played me, stay the hell away. Wow, thought you were special, guess not. Each response chipped away at the confidence she once carried so effortlessly. Frustrated, she tried another tactic. Damage control among her friends. She knew her reputation had taken a hit, but if she could at least keep her inner circle intact, she might be able to rebuild. She messaged her best friend Lauren, expecting sympathy, maybe even outrage on her behalf. "Jessica, you see what Logan did? He's obsessed with me. This is crazy." But Lauren's response came swiftly, and it wasn't what she was expecting. "Lauren, honestly, Jess, I don't know what to say. I had no idea you were playing all these guys." "Jessica, you're seriously believing him? Are you kidding me?" "Lauren, it's not just him. There's proof, screenshots, voice notes, it's everywhere." Jessica's stomach dropped. She had underestimated the reach of Logan's post. She thought it would be something she could dismiss, something she could talk her way out of. But instead it had taken on a life of its own. Worse, she wasn't just losing men, she was losing the people she had considered friends. She scrolled through social media, desperate to gauge the damage. The comments were relentless. Some mocked her, some expressed disappointment, and others, the ones that hurt the most, simply said, "I should have known." Even the women she had once looked down on, the ones who had warned others about girls like her, were now watching her fall. Her phone buzzed with yet another notification, but this time, it wasn't a message. She had just been removed from a private social group, a place where she once reigned as one of the most sought-after women. Jessica slammed her phone down on the counter, breathing heavily. She had always assumed she was untouchable, that no matter how many men she toyed with, she would always have a safety net. Now for the first time she had none. And Logan? He hadn't lifted a finger since the moment he pressed post. Jessica sat alone in her apartment, staring at her phone screen as if willing it to bring her some kind of salvation. But nothing changed. No new messages, no apologies from men trying to win her back, no invitations to dinner or drinks, just an empty silence that felt suffocating. It was the first time in years that her phone wasn't buzzing with attention, and the absence of it gnawed at her in ways she hadn't anticipated. She had built her life around being desired, being wanted, but now all that remained was the cold realization that she had been discarded just as easily as she had discarded others. She pulled up Logan's messages again, scrolling through their past conversations, looking for something, anything, that might give her a reason to believe she could fix this. But there was nothing left to say. He hadn't responded to her desperate pleas, her anger, or even her final admission of defeat. And then, impulsively, she typed out one more message. "Jessica, Logan, please, can we talk?" She watched the 3 little dots appear, signaling that he had read it. Her heart pounded. For a brief second, hope flickered inside her. Then the dots disappeared. No response, no acknowledgement, nothing. And then, a moment later, something worse. Her message showed seen. That single word was more crushing than any insult he could have thrown at her. Jessica inhaled sharply, but before she could type anything else, a notification popped up. "Logan has blocked you." Her hands went numb, her phone slipping from her grip and hitting the floor with a soft thud. She stared at it, as if the device itself had betrayed her. Blocked, not argued with, not confronted, not given a final dramatic moment of closure. Just erased. She had spent years perfecting the art of control, ensuring that she was always the one with the power, the one who decided when things ended. But Logan hadn't given her that satisfaction. He had simply removed her from his world, cutting her off completely, as if she had never mattered at all, and maybe, just maybe, she never really had. She exhaled shakily, leaning forward, pressing her hands to her face. For the first time in a long time, she felt something foreign creeping in. Something she had never truly considered before. Regret, not just for what had happened with Logan, but for everything. For the countless men she had strung along, for the people she had dismissed as unimportant, for the bridges she had burned without a second thought. Because now, sitting alone in the dim glow of her once luxurious life, she finally understood something. When you play with fire, you don't get to decide how much of you burns. And Jessica, she had just lost everything.